Hey guys, Scott here, Pine Barren Craftsman. It's been a while since I was able to show my face. I got a film crew here with me today. This is the project. This is a Hearthstone wood burning stove that I put in a couple of years ago, and I put it on a 2x12 high piece of dimensional lumber, and I put some plywood on it. And this is a platform that was built, and this was the original floor piece that came with the fireplace. I built the base, and today I just completed the back sheet metal and the front to hide the 2x12. If you look back in the old videos, you'll probably see what it looked like before. So what I did was I went down to the metal supply in local city down here, Bangor, Maine, and I purchased 14 gauge sheet metal, and I was able to get it in 4x4 pieces cut. I wanted to go 48 inches tall by 48 inches deep, because that was the size of this platform. I wanted it to just end perfectly. So they cut it for me there. I didn't even have to touch it. As far as the original panels to get it in the truck. Once I got it home, I picked up some parts cleaner, brake cleaner, I should say, that you would put on a disc rotor for your brake job or your drums. And I wiped down all the factory grease that was on this piece of sheet metal before I sprayed this. So make sure that you spray it down thoroughly, make sure it's in a ventilated area, and wipe until there's nothing left on the rag. And then I went and I got some black flat, this is a flat finish, black high temp, 1200 degree barbecue and wood burning stove paint. This should not get to 1200 degrees. You know, I don't think this gets to even 500 degrees on the surface of this. But I did it to be safe. So what I did was, I marked my studs, my wood beams, 16 inches on center, wherever they were, I found them. And I decided to just put the panel up on the wall and catch some screws. And this one, if you come around the back here, just look at this angle, I had to do some specific cuts. I measured off the inside corner, and I measured off these locations, and I transcribed this measurement just like you would to a piece of sheetrock. And if you look over here where I cut out for the outlet, okay? And I cut this metal with a grinder, a 4-inch disc DeWalt grinder with a thin metal blade, and it worked great for these kind of cuts. And for the outlet, I drilled with a drill bit the size of my jigsaw blade in 4 corners, and I jigsawed out this outlet because this is a rectangle in the middle of the board. It's very hard to cut that with a grinder, so I use a jigsaw. This bottom piece, if you want to get down here closer, is 2 panels because they only had them this board in 5-foot length. I didn't think enough to get it home in one continuous piece. So if I had bought a continuous piece, I would be able to bend this around here and I wouldn't have had a splice. But I bent these with the radius, if you want to look at this from the top down. I tried to match the radius on this and this edge here. See where I'm pointing? And luckily, my cut was straight and I was able to match up this seam here. And I tucked it back behind the moldings. This bend was not the easiest to do, and there's some things here and there that, you know, are not perfect that I would like to maybe massage back with a little hammer and maybe a piece of wood. Just it's a harder radius than what I have on here, but I did it by eye. So I think it cost me $200 for the steel and the black-headed screws. There's a lot different hardware at the hardware store that you can purchase instead of a Phillips head screw. Maybe there's a more flush screw that would look a little neater, countersink it a little bit slightly. So this is something that I could change later, but I wanted to just see how it looked and get it finished. The biggest problem to this whole project is making sure that your back wall is square. The back wall was slightly out of square and my sheet metal was perfectly square. So when you're taking your measurements and you're placing that piece of metal on the base, the board wanted to sit slightly like this. So if that piece of sheet metal sits on this base, and the base isn't level, which it is, but the back wall isn't. So it went from being wide to tight up here. So it was kind of hard to get it to work. I had to make some custom cuts on the bottom to get this seam to close up. So it takes a little bit of finagling. Another thing is, if you're going to do this and you run into a molding, if you pull this molding off the door, the window jamb, and off the sill, and you tuck this sheet metal behind it, you're going to end up with a gap here, the difference of this thickness. So I chose to butt the metal directly up to the wood. So let me show you. So pretty much, this is where we're at, the final product. Thanks for watching. This is a DIY budget fireplace surround. One other criticism that I have is how this has a nice radius here. I often think if I should radius this just to get rid of that sharp 90-degree corner. You guys, you be the judge. You let me know what you think. Write in the comments. I'll probably get a black plate for the outlet cover and a black receptacle there. That receptacle is needed there in case we want to put a blower kit on this fireplace. So we're all ready for the fall. Hopefully you guys are all set up with your firewood if you're burning firewood. Thanks for watching. I would try this if I was you guys, and instead of spending the money on tile, and you end up with a thicker finish on the wall when you have a tile. You have the hardy backer, you have the thin set, and the thickness of the tile, you end up with a little bit more. You tend to have to hide it with a finished piece. This goes right up. There's 14 gauge of metal. 1/8 of an inch steel is too thick. It's pretty heavy. You could use it. And you don't want to go too thin. I went with the 14 gauge. Thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.